I'm Jim, and today you're in Jim's garage. So twice a year I do oil change on the Mini Cooper. One time in over Thanksgiving and one time in late May. So we're here now in late May. And I've done this the whole time I've had the car. And I do it because I think it's very important for the longevity of the car to do the oil changes. Largely with the modern engines, you have what's called exhaust recirculation. That is part of, my understanding is that a part of the exhaust combustion gases that sparks the engine gets recirculated back into the air intake manifolds. And this will cause the oil to blacken. Now, the general combustion will cause the oil to blacken too, but what you want is you generally don't want the accumulation of this black soot in your oil for any long period of time. One reason that you don't want to have the black soot in the engine is because for long periods of time is because it can affect the piston rings. The piston rings prevent a blow-by in the engine, and if you have a situation where those black deposits from the combustion get on the walls of the engine where the piston rings are, that can cause the cylinders to start to deteriorate, and then you can start to cause oil consumption. So even though the Mini dealer manufacturer says you only need to do an oil change 10,000 miles or once a year, I would recommend doing it twice a year, largely because the whole idea here is that as long as the car lasts 4 years, then you can buy another car from them. So they're not really interested in you having a car that will last a long time. And so one of the disadvantages, of course, doing the oil change twice a year is that it costs twice the amount. So I have figured out a really cheap way to do the oil change. So I'm going to show you a way to change the oil that's fairly easy and cheap, and doesn't even require you to jack up the car or anything like that. Basically what we do is there's a dipstick in the engine here, and I'll show you in a second. And you just basically put a tube down where the dipstick is sitting, and then you just suck the oil out of the bottom of the engine. And it's a really easy, you can buy these oil extractors on Amazon for about $50. Maybe a little bit more, just depending on how much you want to spend, but it doesn't cost very much, and it just prevents you from having to go to the oil change place. And if you go to the oil change place, they're going to insist that you change the oil filter. And so what I'm going to do though, in order to do this oil extraction, is I'm going to drive the car around, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles, just so the engine gets hot. Not so it's like so burning hot that you don't want to burn yourself with oil, but you do want to get it warmer than just room temperature, so it's easier to suck the oil out of the engine. Okay, so now I've driven the car around and I popped the hood. I used the OBD link to app to see how hot the temperature was, and I didn't ride around very long, so I got it up to like 160 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's just a little bit more than normal. So I can feel that the engine's hot to touch. And here's the dipstick. So this is what we're going to do. We're basically going to remove the dipstick. You can see it right here, the dipstick. And you can see here, it's nice and clean. And we can wipe off the dipstick. And you see black on the towel. So there's black soot in there, but it's not really bad. And so it's time to change it. All right, so the oil extractor that I use is called the topsider, and it's basically has this little pump here, and we'll create a vacuum inside this chamber. What I got is basically some tubing, and I'll go ahead and measure that tubing for you so you know what that is. This tubing here is 6.5 millimeters. And the tubing it goes into, this gas line tubing, is 14.5 millimeters. And of course, these are all approximate. Just as long as the tubing, this tubing here, this plastic tubing is small enough to fit into where the dipstick hole is. So then I'm just going to hook it up to here and pump up the canister, and then we'll start sucking the oil out of the car. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just put in the where the dipstick goes in, put in the tube down there. And what you want to do is you kind of want to put the tubing in at a length that's about the dipstick length. So just kind of line up the tubing with the dipstick, the ends, and then mark right here where the dipstick ends, and then put it down into the engine. So now that I put pressure on in the canister, it'll take a while for the oil to come out, but not too long, maybe 5-10 minutes. If you start hearing some of the oil slipping, that's because it's kind of getting down to the end. It will start to gurgle a little. And in between, after you let it drain for a while, you probably want to add some more pressure back into the container. You also want to fill the container and make sure that it's filling up with oil. So what happened a second ago is it started to gurgle, and then I pushed the tubing down a little bit more so go deeper into the engine. We'll keep doing that. Once we hear the gurgling sound, then we'll just push the tube down lower to try to get lower and lower into the engine. So there are 4.5 liters of oil in the engine, and I'm not sure that this is 4.5 liters. I think it's a little bit less than 4.5 liters. So what I'm going to do is, it's getting to a point where it seems like I'm maybe halfway through, and so I'm going to go ahead and empty this can and then try to extract the rest. So you can hear it gurgling now, and so I'm going to basically pull this out, then take the extractor. Now, the last time I did the oil change, I take the oil to a local auto parts store, and they generally have a place where you can empty your used oil. And so I keep the bottle that I used last time, so I can put the old oil into the bottle, and then take it to the auto parts store, so you can get rid of it there. All right, so now I'm just going to reinsert the tube back down into the dipstick tube area. Now I'm going to test to see if we're getting any oil out at that depth. So that's not enough. A little bit more. Looks like it's coming out now. So the first attempt shows about 3.5 quarts. All right, that seems to be it. So when I'm finished measuring, it shows about a little bit under 4 quarts of oil. So I'm going to go ahead and use a microfiber towel to wipe off the dipstick and put the dipstick back in. Now I'm only going to do is put 4 quarts of oil back into the engine. When I pour the oil back in, I like to use one of these large funnels so there's no chance of spilling the oil all over the place. So here's the new oil. The lid has a little aluminum cap on it, so I'm just going to pick this off. All right, then we put the cap back on, and we'll check the oil level again. When I take the oil back, I like to put it in a bucket so it doesn't tip over in the car.